Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Welcome to our webinar organized by KPI.com. First off, thank you all for taking the time to join us here today. It's a real pleasure for us all connecting with so many people around the world. And as a matter of fact, the majority of our clients is from Saudi Arabia and UAE. We have been working with them, working for them, solving their issues and taking care of their businesses for quite an extended amount of time. So we're always happy to make new connections, open to new business opportunities at any time. In today's webinar, we have arranged to discuss one of the topics which has become hot topics of discussion for Saudi Arabian business owners, the topic of electronic invoicing and e-invoicing solution providers. More specifically, what we will be concentrating on mostly today is the second phase of e-invoicing in Saudi Arabia, as phase one has already passed. So phase two, what it includes, what are the requirements, how to prepare for the second phase, and what things to bear in mind while selecting the solutions provider. Let's not waste any more time and get started straight away. Here is how our today's agenda looks like. First, we are going to talk about date and implementation phases of e-invoicing and at what stage we currently stand. Next, we will try to answer a very, very important question. What do businesses have to do to comply with the phase two integration and requirements? Third, we're going to look at things to avoid in the integration phase. And lastly, we're going to provide the answer to the most important question of today's webinar, how to make your e-invoicing align with standardization. Now, this is our speakers for today's webinar, Yashin Boltag, Jawlan Shamet, and Kamran Kamar. At the end of the webinar, we'll have a Q&A session so you can ask any related questions to the topic of today's webinar or any other questions related to the topic of e-invoicing in Saudi Arabia. Now, starting with the timeline for e-invoicing by ZATCA authorities, since December 4th, 2024, all taxpayers in Saudi Arabia have been required to begin using e-invoices. That in turn means businesses are enforced to generate, store, and modify electronic invoices. All businesses are still in phase one in Saudi Arabia currently. Some business owners are still struggling with finding an appropriate e-invoicing solution provider, but most of them have already found one. What to look out for at this stage is thinking in long term and being able to find the solution provider which not only complies with phase one requirements, which are pretty basic and simple, but searching that solution provider which can handle with phase two as well. Now, from the second phase, which is planned to begin from January 1st, 2023, enterprises will be required to integrate their e-invoices with ZATCA's electronic system. Most of the work involved in phase two should be taken care of mostly by solution provider and ZATCA authorities, not by the business owners. And we're going to talk about this in more detail next. Moving on, and here in this slide, we can see what types of requirements are placed on businesses in Saudi Arabia, both for phase one and phase two. The businesses that are already working with e-invoicing solution providers right now should comply with phase two requirements, which in addition to phase one requirements, entails the following four requirements. And that's what we're going to discuss more about. The first of all, being able to generate UUID, Universal Unique Identifier. What is Universal Unique Identifier? It's a 128-bit number generated by an algorithm to make it unlikely that the same identifier will be generated by anyone else. The UUID is stored inside the XML invoice, and it's not required to be visible on the invoice. These can include values such as hash or digital stamp. We will talk more about hash and digital stamp, which should also be shown on invoice or e-note. So hash is a digital fingerprint of the invoice date. The hash is also generated by a standardized algorithm that guarantees a different fingerprint if any piece of information on the invoice is changed. And it can only be generated after the invoice content is finalized. And hashes are not required to be visible on the invoice. Next thing is having a digital or cryptographic stamp, in other words. It's an electronic stamp which is created by a cryptographic algorithm to ensure authenticity of origin and integrity of content of the data for the electronic invoice. And the final requirement is the integration of e-invoicing solution with the new ZATCA central e-invoicing platform. This is done through APIs, application programming interface, so that the e-invoicing solution can access and interact with ZATCA's e-invoicing platform's components. In the next two slides, we can visually see how phase 1 and phase 2 processes look like, and all the steps included. Starting with phase 1, generation phase, it is simple. Supplier or businesses contact with buyers directly, both B2B and B2C customers, and issues an electronic invoice with a QR code that must contain the following data: the seller's name, seller's VAT registration number, timestamp, invoice total, and VAT total. All that data is then stored in electronic format. In phase 2, the integration phase, the dealing with e-invoices have been categorized into two modules depending on the type of the customer. In B2B module, the supplier first generates the e-invoice, which is then transmitted to the ZATCA platform, where it is provided with a cryptographic stamp and a hash value as UUID, as we discussed earlier. Once the e-invoice is approved by ZATCA in such manner, supplier can send the invoice to the buyer. It's important to note that B2B invoices do not become legally effective until they have passed ZATCA's verification. Last, electronic invoices are stored in local archives of the supplier as well as externally. Now, according to the second model, reporting model of the second phase, it is near real-time transaction model. And in this model, the supplier's e-invoices can be issued to the customer, but are also reported to the ZATCA's Authority e-Invoicing Integration Portal within 24 hours from issuance. After that, electronic invoices are validated and acknowledged through the taxpayer's API. Customers can then check the validity of the invoice by scanning the QR code on the invoice with the help of the special application provided by ZATCA authorities. As we now have some understanding of how both phase 1 and phase 2 processes work, there are certain things to look out for. These are all enforced by ZATCA as well, and included elements such as not accessing the system anonymously and resetting the default password of the system into a unique one on the first use. The system should keep track of all user activities associated with the invoice generating process. Solution providers should restrain persons subject to the e-invoicing regulation from modifying or deleting invoices once they are issued. The system also must not allow any modification of system logs that keep the system activities, as well as that persons subject to the e-invoicing regulation are not allowed to change time or date on the e-invoice solution. Next, all log entries of the e-invoicing solution must be timestamped and linked by the hash of the previous invoice. Finally, invoice solution provider should not provide with the feature to reset the invoice counter. Now, other three things to watch out for in the integration phase also include restriction of time changes that will modify the timestamp value during the e-invoice issuing, prohibition to generate more than one sequence so that all e-invoices are linked using the previous invoice hash, and last but not least is not allowing the system to export the cryptographic stamp. It's crucial that all business owners keep these restrictions in mind while choosing the most optimal solution provider for their businesses. Now, finally, coming to the end of today's webinar, the most important question to be answered here is how to align with standardization. Now, we all know that there are a lot of ZATCA-approved e-invoicing solution providers out there. Why is it extremely critical to choose the right e-invoicing solution provider today? Is that your system architecture needs to be designed from the future readiness perspective. If you are only opting for the solution that solves your compliance with only phase 1, you are definitely going to be affected a lot in the future. If you will have to, for example, make changes in your internal system twice with your current solution provider, you're going to incur extra costs and burdensome work for your company. That's why it's strongly recommended that you align your business with the help of smart and user-friendly accounting systems like KPI. Our platform is ZATCA approved and provides with a wide range of tools for managing your accounting activities easily. We have successfully matched all phase 1 requirements and are phase 2 ready. Let KPI take care of your e-invoices without any further impediments for you, while you keep your mind busy with managing other aspects of your business. Now, this brings us to the end of our today's webinar. Now, we'll start the Q&A session. If you have any questions related to the topic that we have discussed in the webinar, please feel free to ask them now.
Assalamu alaikum, Mr. Mansur Mahan. Thank you for a question. So Regarding the starting of phase 2 process, so it will be like it will start from the January 1st, 2023. Before that, all preparation stuff will be just submitted to the ZATCA to test for the testing process. I mean, the purpose, and just to make system ready for that. Let's for that specific period, which means is there is some documentation provided, but in terms of some technical stuff, it's still ongoing. Once just everything will be completed and tested through their system, it will be announced as a separate news. So if you have any more questions, we're just happy to answer. Yeah, we got a question regarding can we choose any e-invoicing solution to meet all the requirements? Actually, yeah, there are plenty of e-invoicing solution providers. So as you know, for the phase 1, there are big number of providers who are just supporting that QR printing option for now as a phase 1. So for the phase 2, I think there will be kind of refreshing the list who will be just compatible with the phase 2 requirements as well. And of course, it just depends on your so you can just choose any of them. But as an option, our solution can provide not only accounting side of your business, I mean, a cover, but we can also help you to manage every aspect of your business, which means in terms of your HR processes, CRM processes, and payroll and accounting stuff as well. Actually, can non-Saudi Arabian companies still benefit from this mandate? Actually, it's only for the Saudi market, and just strictly only for the Saudi market. I got your questions regarding this. No, actually, the QR code information, it's not something that the client can change. It's some minor changes can be done, but overall, it's like the number of like information that has to be in that QR code, such as like your VAT number, your like a tax amount, your total amount of your invoice, and such kind of information regarding the invoice itself. Yeah, regarding the cost for the QR, it's actually what we have in our system is we already have like customizable PDF templates, and what we're just offering it's a compatible PDF template which can be implemented, and also there are kind of a bit like a number of steps, a couple of steps that has to be done in order to just make some fields for extra fields for the customer side, just to make that information to be in the system, so we can just populate it in the QR and accordingly. I mean, and regarding the cost, it just starts from like for if it's like with the annual fee, it starts from a $500 for 1 year, which includes like up to 4 users, and just implementing that template with a QR. No, $500 it's for 4 users and QR. 4 users for 1 year, like for accounting module, our accounting module with a already implemented template with a QR. Actually, based on our policy, we're not just charging extra for our to our existing clients. So, which means like if you are already our client, that doesn't mean that you will be charged for the phase 2 implementation, because this kind of things will be done on a background, which means like the system will send all the proper information to the ZATCA, and all these actions will be done accordingly on the background. So for archiving, should we store our invoices in KSA? Frankly speaking, we didn't just we didn't see that specific requirement for that storing, that it should be stored in a KSA. So one of our requirements was like to store it in a cloud-based platforms, which is like KPI itself as a cloud-based platform. So until now, we just didn't see that kind of a strict rule for like that invoices has to be stored in KSA. Yeah, no, for regarding the approval of the, yeah, we are ZATCA approved, and regarding in phase 2, yes, we're just preparing everything, and we're doing on our side all tech so we're just covering all tech requirements, and we're preparing our system for the phase 1 to compatibility. So as soon as we just finish our technical works, we will announce it, as I just said earlier. So yes, the answer is yes, you can use it in phase 2. So just if you are interested, and if you need like more information, and if you need more assistance on our software, you can just leave your messages, or you can just leave your email address, so we can just can do some demo for you, some profit demo, so you can see what we have in our system. Because as I said, we are not only just providing the accounting software, but you can just handle all your processes, business processes, within the one solution, within the one software. Yeah, regarding the onboarding, it just depends on like your processes itself. It depends on on the complexity of your processes, but normally it takes like if it's something that we're setting up account and we are just applying your template, so it normally takes like 3 to 5 days maximum. But if you want just some more complex, because as I said, we are not just handling on the like e-invoicing side, but we also can just manage like inventory management. We can just provide you the like proper invoicing stuff, sales quotation and sales order stuff. So you can just handle all your in-house processes within one platform. So it depends on like the complexity of your process itself, but normally it's like 3 to 5 days. So if there is no more questions, and if you don't mind, we will just close our today's session. And let me thank you for your like time and just interest in our webinar, and hope to see you like within a list of our in the list of our clients. So we're happy just to help you and there's like a process of just being compatible with the ZATCA's requirement for that e-invoicing stuff. And thank you one more time for your time.